Hi there and welcome to Influence, a show all about the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. I'm your host, Jessica Graves. I'm excited to have a couple of colleagues from the Department of Poultry Science. And first today, we have Dr. Anuraj Sukumaran. Dr. Anuraj, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got to Mississippi State?
Okay, first of all, thanks for having me, Jessica. So I'm Anuraj Sukumaran. I'm a poultry scientist in the Department of Poultry Science, and I'm an assistant professor in food safety microbiology. I am originally from India, and and I'm basically a veterinarian. And I got my DVM degree back in 2013, and I moved to Mississippi State in poultry science for a master's program. The reason I joined Mississippi State was I got a good assistantship from the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and that was good. And later in 2015, I started a PhD program in animal science, and I was lucky enough to be hired by the department back again in 2018 as a faculty member.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's my story, kind of.
That's awesome, and we are so glad to have you as part of our faculty. So let's talk a little bit about your research field of study. You do quite a bit with, we were just talking offset about bugs perhaps, but you are very much involved with microbiology. So why don't you give the audience a good broad overview of kind of what your research area looks like, maybe some details of what that includes.
Yeah, so basically my research program can be divided into three major areas. The first one is food safety. So I deal with a lot of different pathogens, bacteria mainly, that cause foodborne issues and outbreaks in the US. And the second area I work with is about food quality, especially meat products. So basically we want to develop some new technologies that can detect quality issues in food products. And the third aspect, it's not just about food. We have to care for the animals and the birds. So we have to make sure they are disease-free. And one of the areas I work is to develop some interventions that can prevent diseases.
I'm very fascinated by the project specifically related to using imaging technology to determine quality. Could you briefly tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really new, exciting project that I'm working with Dr. Eugene Liu in the Department of Ag Bioengineering. So it is a novel imaging technique which can detect these meat quality issues such as white striping or woody breast, which currently the people have to manually separate this defective meat from normal meat. But with our technology, we are really excited. If it works, we will be able to separate them during the processing itself, and that can save a lot of human manipulation, and that's going to be a very good technique for the industry.
So exciting. So one of the things I love most about your program is that it really has this farm to fork application. We talk about that quite a bit, especially in the College of Ag. But talk about maybe the hatchery. You do some work on the hatchery side of things, so on the farm side perhaps, and then all the way to that fork component. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's one of the cool things about my program. I'm so proud about it. So there's no way we can control all these foodborne outbreaks with just one intervention or one measure to completely cut it off. It's not possible. So we have to have a multiple hurdle approach. So my research is kind of focused from the hatchery, where the birds come out as chicks, and then all the way to the table. So I work in hatcheries, I work in farms, and also I work in processing plants to have some sort of intervention to prevent these pathogens contaminating.
Why don't we talk a little bit and kind of shift gears from research and talk about teaching a little bit. You teach a few different classes. Talk about what your teaching program looks like.
Yeah, so my teaching program, I have 3 in-class classroom courses, and I mentor master's and PhD students in my lab. So the 3 courses I'm teaching right now, one is poultry processing, where I teach my students about how the poultry is processed in the industry, what are the engineering and different aspects of processing. The second course is diseases of poultry, where I talk about different diseases that commonly infect the chickens, Also, I teach an undergraduate seminar, which is quite different, because I don't teach too much science there. I'm going to teach more about the professional, advancement opportunities for the students, career development, things like that.
But all of those things are extremely important and allow us to diversify our students so that they get really a really well-rounded education. So we're running short on time, but I have one last question for you. Where's your favorite place on campus and why?
I would say my department itself is my favorite place because my wife is also a faculty member in the department, and that's something really cool about ours is a Mississippi State family. And Dr. Reshma Ramachandran, she's my wife, and she's a reproductive physiology faculty member in the department.
So truly the Bulldog family.
Yeah, you can call me a Bulldog family.
Awesome,
You know?
awesome. Dr. Anuraj, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jessica.
That's going to do it for this portion of our episode. We'll see you back in just a few moments with a graduate student.
Think you know egg? Think again.
We are creative.
We protect the environment.
We prepare for careers in medicine and conduct research.
We empower people and communities.
We are technology driven.
And we feed and clothe the world. We are the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Mississippi State University.
Hey there and welcome back to this episode of Influence. As I mentioned earlier, we have a graduate student with us, Mr. Hudson Thames, who is a doctoral student in Dr. Anuraj's lab, as you met earlier. So Hudson, nice to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your past, your academic history.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you again for having us on. We really appreciate it. So my name is Hudson Thames. I am Dr. Sukumaran's PhD student. I am originally from Charleston, South Carolina, and I heard about Mississippi State from a recruiter who spent a lot of time at my high school. So that was a really great opportunity for me. So I originally wanted to pursue veterinary medicine, and so I went into the Animal and Dairy Sciences department. I did my 4 years of undergrad there. However, I realized towards the end of my senior year that I had varying interest, and I realized that I had a stronger interest in food safety and microbiology, and that I had the skills to work in that area. And so I met Dr. Sukumaran, and we realized that I would be a good fit in his laboratory, and so now I'm looking at food safety and poultry science.
Awesome. So we talked earlier with Dr. Sukumaran about the kind of farm to fork nature of his program. And so why don't you give us a little bit more details of where you fall on that farm to fork spectrum? It sounds that you're more on the fork side of it, but tell us a little bit about your research that you're doing.
Yeah, so I work with my favorite aspect of it. I get to work with the actual food products themselves. So my area of focus is in the food safety from the processed products side of things. So right now what I'm looking at specifically is salmonella in biofilm form and how that interacts with the processing equipment and the surfaces that are involved, because that plays a significant role in the persistence of these bacteria.
Sure. And one of the things from a practical standpoint, one of the things that we often talk about from a food safety perspective is how to properly handle meat, right? In the home, for example. And so it sounds like the work that you're doing is very applied in that nature and perhaps is very informative and could be translated into an at-home application, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, the things we look at are how are these surfaces interacting with the bacteria in ways that they allow them to survive. So while that's really informative for processing, but it also plays a role in really any other area. You can see how this would affect a restaurant or a kitchen, someone's personal home. So it has a lot of applied applications.
Yeah, I love that. I love the application piece of it. So we had the opportunity to interact previously when you were an animal and dairy sciences student and you studied abroad. Why don't we talk a little bit briefly, because we could have prospective students, maybe current students watching this episode, talk about maybe how that study abroad shaped your academic career and perhaps your global mindedness.
Absolutely. I think that that was one of the best opportunities that we had as undergraduate students. You get a chance to apply your knowledge that you've acquired throughout your education, and you get to see how this will affect the world and see how different our environment is from other people. So I think that it ultimately helps expand your viewpoint on what is necessary in food safety and what types of advancements are going to actually benefit people outside of the United States. I mean, we can't be narrowly minded and focused only on our own advancements, but we have to consider how this is going to affect other people.
Sure.
So I think that it humbles you and allows you to try to be considerate of the other things that are happening around.
Sure. One of those things that we often talk about are kind of soft skills and we were talking offset about adaptability being a very key component of what we do oftentimes these days. But talk about maybe some of those learning experiences that you've had, not only with some of those soft skills, but then perhaps from a professional development standpoint.
Of course. I think that the professional development skills that you get from within a master's degree and a PhD are extremely beneficial. Not only do you learn specific skill sets and techniques that are related to your field of study, but you also learn how to conduct yourself in a professional environment. So you learn how to network and build relationships with your colleagues in the department and the faculty members. And with the conferences that we go to and the different networking events, you learn how to communicate with different representatives from other companies. And you start to see the fruit of that when your name is recognized. So when someone calls you out from another company, you have a really good opportunity to try to market yourself to these potential employers.
That's really good wisdom as we move forward. I'm sure that prospective students would enjoy that. Well, we're almost out of time, but quickly, where's your favorite place on campus and why?
Well, it's honestly not a really secretive spot anymore, but the North Farm over by the vineyard, that is one of my favorite places to go.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much.
That's going to do it this episode of Influence. We'll see you next time.